Hello and welcome to the extreme post-show event for the month of March as we bring back Josh Shernoff, the Blue Meanie, and hopefully the quintessential stud muffin Joel Gertner will show up for this live interactive event recapping their latest episode from That Was Extreme, available exclusively here on ad-free shows. And the topic this month was all about the Human Suplex Machine TAZ. So guys, let's get it going. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me. Joel,
thanks for having me too.
He's on PWT Pro Wrestling Time. So it's like this a typical indie show. You say something sometime 7 o'clock, usually starts around 7:30. So
man's knee deep in something at this point. Wait a minute, he might be here now.
There are more people joining as we talk, so I'm allowing him in as quick as possible.
There he is.
There he is.
Star of the show.
Go ahead, unmute yourself there, Mr. Quintessential Stud Muffin. We already did the big intro. Welcome.
Welcome.
I did your whole well thing for you. So
oh yeah,
you're set.
I hope you got paid better than I do. Honestly, my tax accountant comes to me. He's like, "That's the shit."
Yeah.
Well, guys, listen, thank you all three of you for joining. Yes, Joel, we'll give you some shit tonight, but appreciate it. This is going to be awesome. Before we do kick it over to the guys and gals for their questions, so start filling up the chat, guys. If you have questions, let me know, and I'll start funneling it over to you. I want to, first of all, mention that the episode was excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I'd like to hear a little more of is something I believe, Meanie, you mentioned first on the show.
Okay.
And that is the thread that connects Taz to you, Meanie, as well as to you, Josh. And that common thread is none other than Bill Apter. Taz was Bill's grocery store stalker that turned into a friend and delivered candy and hard sodas. And Josh, so I'm hoping maybe you can kick this off because he's been a big influence for you and your career, right?
Yeah. So a lot of the people know the story already, but I met Bill when I was 9 years old. He moved from New York, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and that whole group moved to Bluebell, Pennsylvania, which was not too far from my house. And he, sorry, I'm getting a phone call here. It's very professional.
You said a phone call. Let me tell you something. These post-game shows that we do, right? to back up these podcasts that we do every month. These post-game shows aren't exactly the most superfluous, frivolous, colossal wastes of time ever at all, with the exception of this guy Shernoff. Now he's going to get a phone call now?
Well, I was actually getting a call from Bill Apter, but you know what? I won't put him through. No, so I met Bill when I was 9. He moved right down the street from me in my neighborhood, and his sister and his daughter and my sister became close friends. And long story short, I got to know him. I knew who he was ahead of time, and so I would just badger him about wrestling. I asked him all these questions, and by 1999, he was bringing me with him backstage to ECW shows to help him carry his equipment and whatnot. And that's when I first met Joel. But yes, I've known Bill forever, and that's my introduction to him. And Meanie's was more delicious than that.
Well, the one thread of Bill Apter that connects all of us is that one thread of hair that he wraps around
all
his
that's left.
like Mr. Softy. Yeah,
which he knows the lyrics to that too. If you if you want to ask him.
You name a song and Bill Apter knows the fucking lyrics. It's amazing. I didn't even know that song had lyrics, let alone anything. But yeah, dude, I was just a kid going to the mall one day to get my airbrush. And my jean jacket airbrushed with the Van Halen logo on the back, and I'm walking through the mall and go, that's Bill Apter, but there's like no wrestling going on. I was like, hey, excuse me, sir, are you Bill Apter? Oh, well, yes. Well, is there wrestling in town? No, he was doing a photo shoot for their sister magazine, KO magazine.
I mean, can I just ask, how old were you at this time?
Oh man, I could have been like 14, maybe 15.
Okay, because it definitely sounded prepubescent in the voice that you were doing, but I always thought you were older than that. I thought you were like 18 or something. So
I was 13 going, yeah, Mr. Apter. No, but it was cool. And he told me where he was doing a photo shoot at Trump Plaza, which they just blew up. And I was like, holy shit. I was like, holy shit. I know exactly where he's going because my grandfather worked there. And I was just a shitty little kid who would hang out the arcades up there and stuff. So this is kind of like where the worker in me came out. I was like, well, I'll just pretend I'm walking through and hopefully I run into him again. I ran into him again. He's like, oh, yeah. I just saw you at the mall. Do you know where I can get batteries? I was like, yeah, the place you just were. I didn't say that, but, he trustingly gave me a battery, gave me a 20. I ran back to the mall, got him batteries, and I was his photo assistant for today for boxing champion Lloyd Hunnigan, who was fighting in Atlantic City. And
that's how he lures you in, though.
Yeah,
as his photo assistant.
Yeah, that's how I lost.
He lures you in and then gives you a career in wrestling.
Then I woke
up. It's actually very generous.
And then I woke up in a tub of ice and my kidney was missing. And but we became friends from there on. He gave me his card, which I still have. When WrestleMania was in Atlantic City, both WrestleManias in Atlantic City, he asked me to find him a babysitter for Brandon and his daughter, Haley. And and then like the story says in the book, me and Al Snow went to the PWI offices when Al was going to become, he was working for ECW. They wanted to do some in-studio shots, and I walk in, he looked like he saw a ghost because he knew me, but here I was, this kid in the office that had been talking about all these years later. Oh yeah, I bought this kid ice cream, and he goes to hand in the receipt there. Like, yeah, there was a kid with ice cream. Yeah, whatever, Bill. Yeah, where's the kidney? And then he brought me around like, see, I told you the kid really existed. So that's been the relationship of me and Wonderful Willie Apter.
And he also, you talked about Taz. He was the one who introduced me to Taz at one of those ECW shows. And
it'd be great if it was in a supermarket.
Yeah. He introduced me to Taz. And Taz gave me candy and soda. It was weird.
That does sound weird.
You just don't picture Taz handing out candy and soda. I'm telling you.
Well, I think if I remember the story correctly, Taz's
going to Ma's
father, Taz's dad or something had that was his business. And so Taz had like access to all of this candy that he could just provide Bill's children. I don't know, but it was great because I never would have, at that point, I was 15 years old. I never would have been able to meet Taz in any way other than just, some Mark kid showing up, as who bought a ticket. Now it's just a Mark kid who came in with Bill, so it was a lot better in that regard, because I was treated better than I would have been otherwise, because I probably just would have gotten thrown out. But
I just love the fact that the story of him then telling us that it was Taz had to do with this guy gave me candy and sodas, and then you picture Taz as the badass Mike Tyson version wrestler like you guys described on the show, and you just don't picture it. It just doesn't make any sense, but it's cool. I love the story.
He had to have been the Tasmaniac with pre that, but I bet he had long hair already at that point too. So I don't even know what picture to put in my head.
Yeah. or you could have been Kid Crush. Yeah.
Kid Crush. There you go. From your research, Josh.
Yes.
All right. Well, good stuff. Hey, let's turn it over to the guys. I know they want to get started here. So Michael McClanahan, you're on with our friends here from That Was Extreme. Go ahead.
McClanahan.
Good evening, guys. I hope you're all doing well.
Hey.
I'm upright.
And then I thought the Taz episode was excellent. As I've mentioned before, my primary exposure to ECW, just because of my age and the time I got into wrestling, has been WWE ECW. So I was more familiar with Taz, the commentator. And I wanted to ask you kind of a unique question. Do you think that Taz, being such an eloquent speaker and being so good at his job as a commentator, was almost a detriment to him in some ways when he got into the WWE? And do you think it maybe he hadn't been as proficient a commentator as he was, he might have had a little bit longer of an in-ring career. And second to that, can you draw any comparisons to him and, for a more current day example, maybe like a Samoa Joe, who's currently a commentator on the Raw brand, who has had a very good kind of in-ring career in TNA, but when he got to WWE, Vince McMahon kind of saw him more in the role of a commentator.
Whoever wants to.
Oh, I didn't want to step on anybody's toes there. Yeah, there's just definitely a correlation between, you know, Taz as a commentator and Samoa Joe as a commentator, just because they both have great wealth of in-ring knowledge. And I always thought, you know, the former, former wrestlers would go on to become great commentators, just like, I mean, look at Tony Romo in the CBS booth. You might hate him as a cowboy, but you have to respect his knowledge of what he does in the booth. And sometimes he gets a little overboard, Romo. But, you know, they're Taz and Joe are excellent behind the mic because they know they can read, a wrestler can read the psychology of the match and try to figure out what they're thinking in the ring as they're doing it and try to predict where they're going along. So, I think this Taz is over, when it comes to Taz being in SmackDown, I think just his over the top personality is what, won him over with Vince, because Vince loves things that are larger than life, pal, and just, everything in wrestling's everything with the volume turned up, your personality turned up to 10. And like I said, that was Extreme. We got a little hint of that when Pete Senertia was doing, play-by-play with Joey Styles. And then they, go on to show Pete Senertia is Taz, and they introduced the MMA Taz. That personality was always there. That personality he did on SmackDown is something we already knew in the locker room. He kept it hidden a little bit because he liked to pretend to be miserable in the locker room. But, he would always get mad at those guys who could make him laugh. He's like, "Oh, stop, you're killing me. He's killing my gimmick," but, yeah, there's definitely as far as Joe and Taz, there's definitely that's a perfect correlation. That's a great observation on your part, because it's the same thing 20 years later, or 20 some odd years later.
I do think, though, Michael, that I don't think that it was a detriment to him, because this wasn't something that I think anybody really knew he could do. He personally has said a number of times that he didn't believe that he could do it. Obviously Vince McMahon saw something in him, and I get what you mean. It's a detriment in the sense that Vince McMahon said, "No, this guy's a commentator. I don't want to deal with this wrestling thing anymore." But I think had Taz not had that talent, I think the decision had already been made. I don't want to deal with this wrestling thing anymore with Taz. And I think the longevity that he was able to have in the WWE was because of the talents that he had. I think otherwise you easily could have seen him as one of the post WrestleMania cuts, or, moved to maybe he'd be training people or doing whatever. And obviously from what he was able to do as a commentator there, that led to his opportunities with CBS radio, and that led to opportunities, a long career in TNA, and all of that together has led to where he is now. And I think for him to still be as prominent and active in the business, had he strictly just always stayed the Human Suplex Machine Taz, I personally don't think, outside of maybe being a trainer or a producer, I don't think you'd still really be seeing him on TV, because to get to where he is now, he had to go through 15 years of being a commentator. And if he hadn't had that, then I think I don't know that the manager role ever would have come around for him. So yeah, everything works out in a for the best, I guess. For me, I was such a huge Taz fan that I hated his becoming a commentator initially, because I just wanted ECW Taz. I wanted that FTW, that guy. And in a lot of ways, I wanted, when he became a commentator, I wanted what we have now as Taz as a commentator, when he'll sit down to commentary for AEW. That's what I kept wanting. I wanted a commentator version. Instead, there were times you get like, "Oh, tomatoes," and like random things like that. It was bizarre. I'm like, this isn't Taz. So, but I that's just for what my opinion's worth. I think it's I think it ended up in the long run being beneficial. I think he's had a much better career because of that opportunity.
And wasn't there, didn't also he kind of have to go the way of commentating because of injuries or?
Well, he tore his bicep.
Yeah.
And then he always had the neck.
Yeah, he always had the neck issue from
Yeah.
years long, and to the point where you still see it. And he has like this nervous twitch he does. And that goes all the way back to when Scorpio with the pile driver. So
Yeah. All right, good stuff. Joel, do you have anything on that one or no? You good?
No, I concur. I agree wholeheartedly with Josh and Meania.
All right, very good. Let's move on to our next person here. Tim Mcgoldrick, you're on with the guys here from That Was Extreme.
Thanks. Thanks, guys, for taking my question. And this week's podcast, or this month's podcast, was excellent.
Oh, thank you.
It's actually good timing because I had a question kind of similar to the last one, because they're just there's a series, a generation of fans that really only know Taz as a color commentator for SmackDown or a color commentator for TNA. And I feel like, the new iteration of Taz, where he's the manager in AEW of Team Taz, is kind of opening up people to kind of a little bit of a taste of what he was like in ECW, because you talked about his legacy. And I always thought that he was a guy that maybe was sold a little short on, one of the smaller guys who really kind of performed with the chip on his shoulder and outperformed his size and made it further along than people would have expected. We always talk about Guerrero or Jericho or Malenko, and he doesn't always get thrown into that conversation. Do you think now that he's kind of more eyeballs are on that, more of a similar type of character, that people are going to go back and look at his ECW run, and that may help his legacy in the long run?
You want to go?
I hope they. Oh yeah. I hope they do. There's a wealth of it out there. With the network and whatnot, you can watch his entire career basically, except for the pre-TV stuff, some of the Northeast Indies. But it's all out there, and I hope so. I mean, he's super versatile, and whether people find him through AEW or whether it was TNA or WWE, even if they didn't know him much or at all as a wrestler, hopefully they will have a curiosity and try to go back in time and find out, okay, well, this guy who believes that he's the best guiding light to lead a guy like Ricky Starks, a guy like Will Hobbs, what did he have to bring to the table in his day? And hopefully they'll go back to the Taz and Samoa Joe stuff and all of it, man. I mean, his ECW stuff is just, everything that we talked about on the show, but his ECW stuff is just, I am not at all surprised that the first individual that we did a podcast about rather than event was Taz, because with the exception maybe of one, maybe two other people, but two might be stretching it, but really with little exception, Taz is just iconically, just completely ECW, and was there from so early and did so much and accomplished so much, and just covered a lot of ground.
I really hope that that people do go back and check out what he's done. I think when his son Hook starts getting in the ring, I wouldn't be surprised if that leads some people to say, oh, even if it's just, I wonder, does he wrestle like his dad did? And I just hope those people, and no offense to the work Taz put in, but I just hope they go back to ECW. I hope they don't go looking for the, the whatever,
Kurt Angle
shirt,
match,
No, I mean, even the Angle match wasn't what it, the pop at least was, you saw him as a star, but no, I get what you mean. Yeah. It just wasn't Taz. That Taz character in the WWE just didn't work for whatever reason. And everybody can have an opinion on it. But it didn't work the way it should have. So I hope people will go back to ECW. And then I hope people, it's tough to go back and listen to someone as a commentator, like what match are you choosing to hear them? But I think that people, to your point, Tim, of that people, this whole generation that only knows him as a commentator, it always makes me think, when I hear things like that, it always makes me think of Gorilla Monsoon, because for my generation, me growing up, it was Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan, you know, and to me, I would say, oh my God, no one's more familiar with Gorilla Monsoon than me. And then you go, well, what was your favorite match? And I'd be like, I guess I've seen one maybe, or a clip of something. So but it's funny because to me, I don't look at that as I only got the commentating part of it. And the way people are going to come up now with Samoa Joe, if he doesn't return to the ring, they'll see Joe as this, color commentator as well. Wade Barrett is another one now that he's there doing it. So there's a lot of people, Beth Phoenix as well. I could just keep going and going, but so it is interesting. But to me, that's the sign of true success. When Jesse Ventura, yeah.
Jerry Lawler too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is a sign of true success to me, though, when multiple generations can remember you in a completely different role, but at the top of your game in that.
Jerry Lawler just now, that was a great reference though, because the people who see him now doing color on Raw or whatnot, the pay-per-view pre-show or wherever it is that they see him, so many of them at this point probably are unfamiliar with his run at the top in Memphis.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to take some of that stuff maybe one day to get to the network, I think, for people to review it and see really how big he was down there and how big of a wrestler. If you weren't exposed to that, then all you do remember is Jerry and JR and what they did together. You were talking about it a little bit, Josh, earlier, but you were saying, his run in WWE, you guys mentioned it on the podcast, about how, the way he was presented and was different. That's because I always felt ECW made he was larger than life. He was a true badass. He felt like that, and you didn't really think about, I didn't think about at that age as a kid, that his height, or that he wasn't, Andre the Giant. But he just was presented like such a machine, a war machine, just to do a shout out to his Kiss song there. But he was presented that way. And in WWE, it was like, okay, it was cool music, cool pop, but it just didn't have that feeling whatsoever. So I completely agree with you.
It's funny you bring that up. There was a night at the Briarcliff Fieldhouse, and I want to say in Glen Olden, PA. And we're all just hanging out. The locker room was weird because there's this office thing, and you go out and around, and then you come down the aisle from the outside. Everybody's just hanging out outside, and Bigelow was talking about how he really bummed Taz out because Taz thought he was the first guy to come out to War Machine by Kiss. It's like, nah, buddy, I came out to Memphis, and Taz was just like, oh. The Taz is pissed at me. He thought he was the first one to come out the War Machine.
Hey, Taz was the reason I looked up and realized that Kiss, about War Machine, and that Kiss sang that song. So that was the impact of music and wrestling.
I wonder how many other people at ECW did that too, because they turned me on. Like, I don't know, Alice in Chains or
Deep Purple.
Deep Purple. I was gonna say Perfect Strangers, Deep Purple.
No idea.
I never would have bought a Deep Purple album had it not been for me going, all right, I need to get my hands on Shane Douglas's theme. So
and Kiss is playing War Machine. Well, they were playing War Machine on all of their tours. The End of the Beginning tour they were just on. That's in the set every night.
Oh wow!
And my son is waving high.
We got to run in.
That's right.
And case in point, I would watch an ECW show, and there's a highlight reel they did on Sabu to Alice in Chains song called Grind, and it was a brand new song. I went, oh my God, there's new Alice in Chains. And after the show was over, I ran down to South Street to Tower Records and bought the album that night.
Yeah.
So the ECW, it was definitely the impacted wrestling, impacted music in some ways and stuff like that.
And you're finding that those B-level songs, the B-sides, they wind up becoming bigger hits because of it. Perfect Strangers is another good example too.
Absolutely.
We used a ton of cool music for our billboards, man. Like when you were watching Hype Central and they would show you what the matches are on the shows coming to your town on Friday and Saturday night. We were using the Low Fidelity All Stars and just all different stuff like Elastica and Rage Against the Machine and just a ton of stuff.
I remember like November Rain. I first heard a November Rain because I was like I didn't even realize, because growing up a WWF guy, and then my buddy Calvin was like, you need to check out this ECW. And I watched that, and like all of a sudden I'm just thinking, oh, this November to Remember, like, oh, I guess that's their November to Remember theme. Like, I don't know that, who it is. And all of a sudden I'm starting to learn about all this like great music in a totally different genre than what I had been listening to. So I'm curious how many other people ECW did that for.
There was nothing. Go ahead. I
have a buddy who, oddly enough, wrote the short story that inspired November Rain. Del James.
Yeah.
Del James wrote a book called Language of Fear, and there's a story in there called Without You, and the story Without You inspired November Rain. And I had met Del on the old AOL chat boards and then instant message groups and stuff like that. Oddly enough, it was me, Del James, and Tony Khan in the same chat rooms back in the 90s.
Wow.
So Del says to me, he's like, Paul's lucky I'm a wrestling fan, or if Axel wanted to sue, he could have easily sued him. But he kept Axel off the ECW scent, speak.
Tim, any follow-up questions? Anything else?
No, I'm all set. Thanks, guys, for taking my questions. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
That was a good thread right there.
Yeah, that was awesome. Hey, one more. I got
to talk rock and roll too. So along with wrestling. So thank you.
Music all day, man.
Yeah.
There was nothing cooler than Thunder Kiss 65 from White Zombie to start those TV shows. Yeah. Oh, telling you, it was awesome. Loved it.
Hey, in case I forget, just to get ahead of it, Tim and also McClanahan, and to everybody that we're going to speak to tonight upcoming, thank you guys for the digital love. Thank you guys for everything you do for us on social media. I'm becoming familiar with people's names and faces, and it's just a lot of people don't just listen to the show because it's there and it's free right now, but a lot of people actually actively not only interact in this venue, but just as far as telling people about the show, they get out there and they really champion the cause. And personally, I'm just super grateful.
Likewise.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Joel.
Yeah, no, absolutely. After our diatribe on music, someone put in the chat, you guys should do an episode on the music of ECW at some point.
That's Meanie that was when we first talked about doing the show. That was one of Meanie's like initial ideas, was like, we need to do one on music. And obviously you want to kind of get in there with wrestling first, but
that was from Michael McClanahan.
Yeah, that's an episode I would bring on Harry Slash, who did all the ECW themes and stuff like that. He and we could just talk about everything, and then we could talk to Harry about him writing Sabu's theme or writing the Eliminators theme, or all the other stuff he's had to go through. He's had a pretty good music career, and I would love to eventually do it for us to do a show on the music.
Guys, what enhanced when the Gangstas came down and tore shit up was their music was just playing the whole time. That was it. You just felt it like a gang war was going down, and you're listening to the music.
It was like a scene from a movie.
It was
playing out in front of you.
Yeah, it was just you got that music playing and some catch can wrestling going on in the ring, and
nobody's ever adapted that though, where they just play the music as you watch the match. I mean, I love that. That was fun, man. It's good stuff. It's like a soundtrack.
Yeah, like a video game.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it moving here. We have Andrew Hermes. You're on with the guys tonight.
Thanks, Paulie. Thanks, guys, for doing this.
What's up, man?
I have two questions, if I might. First, the episode, I'll add to everybody else's praise. The episode was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hard to put the Mount Everest of ECW in 2 hours, but I mean, Taz is a big topic. There's a lot that maybe you could have done more detail on and stuff, from if you want a 10-hour show, to get the 2 hour mark. Which leads me to my first question. One of the things that always worked for me with Taz was his believability factor in both his wrestling and his promos. And you guys didn't talk a whole lot about his promos, But from your perspective, Joel, as a promo guy, and of course you, Meanie, as a wrestler, and Josh, as more than a fan, how do you think Taz's promos enhanced his presentation, his character, and his believability?
I think Taz. I think Taz was so much more different than anything that was on wrestling on TV at the time. I don't know if he'll ever get the right amount of credit for being different, but just having the balls to be a tweener and just be out for self and not try to get heat and not try to get a pop and just not caring and being the ECW version of like Deathstroke the Terminator, like just being that shade of gray that everybody now strives to be. You have your heelish baby faces and you have your baby face-ish heels, and you have like in the 90s, coming out of such a dark time for the business, the early to mid 90s, neither product was great. There was a lot of sizzle and no steak. There was a lot of this guy's a plumber and this guy's a stock car driver. And this, it was just a character like Taz with his just saying stuff, not caring if you're even going to understand what he's talking about. His finishers are getting called in Japanese, and he's in the very first year of Easy Pass talking about he's got an Easy Pass, brother. He's like stuff becomes cool and it becomes water cooler, and I almost don't know the right way to put over what I'm thinking, but like to me, that's what he was as a promo, is that you could tell that nobody was telling him, go out there and be superstar Billy Graham. Nobody was even telling him, go out there and be Dr. D. David Schultz. Nobody was telling him how to be a heel or even to be a heel. He just wanted to be turned up on 12 Pete Sinurcha Taz, either coming to get that title or ready to defend that title.
Yeah, his promos were flaming hot, man. They were just both barrels pointing right at you. It was like the old Maxwell tape commercials where the guy's sitting there and the radio's up and his hair's blowing and stuff. It was just like a one of a kind, man. It was real. He talked. He didn't talk down to you. He talked at you. Where some people try to do promos and it's totally not their character and it sounds like they're it comes off as just disingenuous. Taz was the genuine article. So, and he kind of carried the character over into the locker room a little bit. And I'm not saying he lived his gimmick, but just for by chance somebody walks in the locker room, and keeping up the kayfabe in the locker room to where like if somebody from some kid from the ECW arena walks through, they don't see Taz sitting there bumping Cher on his Walkman or something, just but he always kept the character up. He always was miserable, and I'm sure in some ways he was miserable. But I was fortunate enough, like I said, he was always cool to me. I always saw his I've seen him smile, and in the days where he was just like, but yeah, as far as his promos goes, they were the genuine article, and he, it was believable. And then, like Joel said, that was the day and time where it was all cartoony and stuff like that, which is funny because my character went there, and my character is kind of like a WWE character, but in the land of extreme. But yeah, Taz was just a full on shoot, man. And you could believe him. And those are the best promos when people go, that motherfucker's going to kill somebody.
Yeah. And
No,
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead,
Joel. No.
Real quick, I was going to just shoot in that I think as much as Dr. D. David Schultz might have been an inspiration for Stone Cold, I think Taz in certain in a business aspect, in the business element, contemporary wise at the time, I think Taz was a good guinea pig for them to see that. And Austin was, not to say he was completely the same as Taz. There was the anti-establishment. There was the whole, up against the boss. And I mean, it wasn't exactly the same, but I see elements in Stone Cold of Dr. D. David Schultz, but also of Taz, just from being close enough to the situation and just seeing the evolution of Taz and just seeing how in 96, 97, he was a different kind of heel and a different kind of gimmick than anything anywhere else.
Yeah, and I think as far as his promos, like one that I always remember stood out to me, clearly it made an impact, was when it may have been right before Barely Legal, but when he's saying to Sabu, like he like very calmly is saying, I gotta hurt you, Sabu. Like I have to, like, and I just remembered that promo, and looking back on it now, it's while very different, almost Jake the Snake-esque. Not to say Taz couldn't do his promos where he's, I'm gonna bust you up, and he's, all fired up. And like Meanie said, where it's just coming at you, but he also was able to just like, he presented these layers to his character, that, which was something I think ECW was really great at, Raven, somebody who had such incredible layers to his character as well. But like, I think Taz's promos were a necessity to believe him in the ring, because I think when you saw the guy talking his promos, you walked away from that and you're just like, that dude's legit, that he's, and then you see him in the ring and you go, holy crap, he's legit. And I remember telling Taz at one point that when he was a guest on the podcast that I did with Bill, and I told him, I said, I used to always look at him in that people always talk about the, you want to be the thing where they go, oh, I know all that other stuff's fake, but not that guy. That was real. And Taz, for me, I didn't necessarily think all the other stuff was fake, but, I knew how wrestling worked pretty much. But Taz, I used to look at and just be like, I don't know, man, he may have just gotten really pissed off in that match or whatever. And I remember Taz telling me that, like, that's the greatest compliment that he could get about that time in his career, because and I think this speaks to what Meanie was saying. I'd imagine he did take his character very seriously. And, when you take it that seriously, to have someone go, oh man, I always thought you did a great job playing, like that would be infuriating. And I think so, it seems like he takes a lot of pride, as he should, a lot of pride in how real he was.
Brother. Gotcha. No, I was going to say, because you all mentioned it, Jim Ross is held on a pedestal, and he said one of the things about Stone Cold is the authenticity. And I feel the same way about people like Taz, even people like Arn Anderson, where they come out, they cut a scathing promo, and then they go beat the hell out of you in the ring and do exactly what they said they were going to do. And it only adds to that character that this isn't some chicken shit heel. He said he's going to bust you up, and then he went and did it, so
well, that's the thing.
I think that authenticity. Go ahead. I'm sorry, man.
No. I interrupted you. I'm sorry. That's the thing about Taz and Stone Cold. They might have had different accents, but they were both blue collar, in their approach. And I think everybody who, has been blue collar their whole life recognizes it, when somebody's, being real, especially, Austin was, working on the loading docks, eating raw potatoes. Taz was, busting his ass with the, on the streets of New York. So, I mean, and people, that comes through the lens,
Yeah, really.
You could see Taz as a guy who was just giving candy to children.
Yeah.
In his promos, you could sense that.
You want a Snickers?
Shernoff's looking for a Taz.
You like wrestling, brother?
That gets out, it's going to be over.
So Taz would kill me.
Snickers, you're not being yourself today. He turns into Bill after.
No, I remember when I did an interview at StarCast with Taz, and he like made some sort. I made some joke, and he said something about my bump card being empty, and I was like, my bump card's not empty. And then he like did this whole thing where he like apologized. So then I'm doing an interview with him again a couple months later, and we're just doing the interview, and we're promoting AEW Plus on Fight, and we're doing this whole thing. And then like the interview is kind of like wrapping it up. I'm like, oh, thanks, Taz. And he's just like, hey, remember that time you smartened me up during the interview? I said you didn't bump, and then you told me you did. And he like brings the whole thing up. I was like, yeah, I was scared to death the entire time, Taz. You were going to kill me. And he's like, yeah, it was pretty funny. It was pretty funny. But he, you know, as I've gotten, and I'm by no means, you know, friends with Taz, but as I've gotten to work with him a few times, it's really cool because you kind of see both the commentator Taz.
Hey, Matt, can you get me a beer while you're over there? I was so distracted. I'm so sorry. Hey, while you're in the fridge, sorry.
And just like that, Josh has been totally derailed.
Oh yeah, nothing is it. No, this is this is a perfect time for a cheap plug. If you like me being derailed by random things Meanie says, check out Mind of the Meanie every Monday. Hey, a quick show of hands. We always talk about the 69-minute eargasm and Mind of the Meanie. Can I see a show of hands? Start with Mind of the Meanie. Who listens to Mind of the Meanie here?
Me.
Man, that's going to have to change. And who listens to 69-minute eargasm? Joel specifically. All right. Your homework, everybody, for next time. You guys got to subscribe to all of our other stuff, because if you like this, it gets, you know, we're going to tie it all together.
If they subscribe, listen, if they subscribe, is that good enough or no?
They subscribe to what? Oh, they don't have to
subscribe
listen.
And download.
No. Yeah, subscribe and download. You don't have to actually listen. We don't care.
All you have to do.
Download.
That's all you do.
Leave a 5-star review.
Yeah, that's right, and you're golden.
Yeah. Oh, we're so good that time they talked about ECW. You know, it doesn't.
Just pad our stats. Could you pad our stats?
That's right.
We like those empty calories.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, look,
Dave
in the QC.
Yes.
And then
wait, was that 69-minute eargasm? Okay, I'll still applaud that. That was great. And then Mind of the Meanie.
Still applaud it.
It's Mind. It's MIND. Oh yeah. But no, we just want you guys to be fans of our other stuff too, because we enjoy interacting with all of you. But no, Andrew, thank you for all those questions. Oh, look at this.
Yeah. No problem. No problem.
He could do a rib there. He's going to press subscribe, and then he's just 1 star.
He's up next for questions, so this will be fun. Go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead, Andrew. You're still going.
Oh no, my only other question was the last match with Taz before the Tommy Dreamer match was with Tanaka and Awesome. I see the symbolism as it took 2 guys to beat him for the title. And of course, it happened to be those 2 guys. You guys didn't get the chance to spend a lot of time on that. Do you think it was important for Taz to lose the way he did on his way out the door, knowing that it was Tanaka and Awesome that did finally put him down and were able to keep him down to take the title off of him?
I think it was kind of important to lose that way just to get the it was the elephant in the room. You know, everybody knew, everybody was chanting. I think the longer the match went and Taz wasn't either, you know, beaten or eliminated, the more it would have just hung over. And the fact that Taz went out as early as he did, the way he did, built that anticipation to which one of these 2 guys is going to be the new world champion going forward, you know, as Taz is on his way out. So I think Taz losing as quick and early as he did added more excitement to that match, as much as, you know, people appreciate and love what Taz did, but everybody knew he was leaving. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they just got that kind of out of the way, so to speak, you know, and that just built up the anticipation for the finish of the match.
I do also want to point out, as far as we didn't really go into much detail, and this was a longer episode than we had intended. And as you can tell from today here, we could go on and on talking about Taz and really talk about anything. But a lot of the decision that I made when with the notes is to, when we're doing something like that, like we're not going to really dive too deep into the matches, because there's a very good chance that at some point we're going to be covering that pay-per-view as, as the topic, in which case at that point we'll dive deep into the match itself and, the story into it. But that was kind of the mindset of, for instance, the Sabu one. We didn't really have to talk about it very much, because if you really want to hear all about the Taz and Sabu build up for Barely Legal, that's, episode 1 was about that. So that's just as a heads up. It was kind of, that's why if you're ever wondering like, oh man, I wish they would go more into it, but also that's when to ask the questions too, at the end, if you're worried that we're not going to get into something, definitely ask the question and we'll cover it then.
And maybe I'll book this now. A podcast here in Philly called Legends of Philly, and every now and then they do every 5th episode or 10th episode, they do a show on what we missed, and then their listeners will write in with questions with stuff they missed on the first couple episodes, and we can recap the first couple episodes.
Oh, that's
on
really
a bonus
cool.
show or something like that. We'll steal that one.
That's a really good idea. And Josh, just so you guys are aware, I wasn't criticizing that.
No, I didn't think you were.
Yeah.
No, I didn't think you were. I just wanted to make sure that you knew, just so we're not leaving anything out, I should say unintentionally. We're intending to, because we want to be able to do it justice, and we can't do a 5-hour podcast. I mean, we could, but then Conrad would be like, dude, that's my gimmick.
Yeah.
That's my job. Yeah.
We always want to leave you wanting more. So.
And this was an excellent episode again. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and it didn't seem like 2 hours. Like you go to hit the download or the play button, you're like, wow, 2 hours and it's over. All of a sudden we're done. So really well done. Anyway, really well done.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. And this is fun for us as well, because as far as Josh and I go on our show, our podcast, Mind and the Meanie, is more talk radio-ish, where it's just like there's no plan thing going in. He just goes, "What's up, Meanie?" And we just have a conversation. It's like if you're listening to local drive time, and we can talk about anything that comes to mind. And there's peaks and valleys. We take a little off ramp here and get back on the highway with our conversation and stuff like that. So doing this, having something structured, so it's different and it's fun, but I don't want to we don't want to step on Conrad's toes too much,
Yeah,
which is why
Conrad has been worried sick.
So personally, because I know Conrad has so many and such great quality shows.
Did we lose him? He was like, he hit the old exit button on the earbud there.
Somewhere in Brooklyn, Joel Gertner's going through the ceiling of his house, and he button this.
But I think it's important to know that Conrad, we had heard, was very nervous that our show was going to basically put all of his shows out. And no, Conrad's not losing any sleep over whether or not we're formatting it similar to him. But
he's like, what's it called again? That was what?
Yeah.
Extreme. Yeah.
That was ECW. That's a good show. Who's on there? Dreamer and who else?
That's funny.
What were we saying, Joel?
Is he back?
Oh, there
he's muted.
Mute himself.
You have to unmute yourself.
This is comedy.
ECW.
That my right index finger came within 1 nanometer of my earlobe, and bam, out of the room. Toss.
Oh, this is good. Good stuff. It's entertainment at its best. And mine, as you're talking about, we just get on and just start shooting the breeze, and that's our show. I mean, that's Mind of the Meanie. Does it get any better than that? I mean, that's a great name for that then.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as shows with the Blue Meanie and myself, I don't think it gets any better than Mind of the Meanie. Except for maybe That Was Extreme or alternative commentary live on Fight this Sunday.
Man, there he goes. What about, hey, we were about ready, Joel, right before you dumped us. we were going to see if you could talk to us about the 69-minute eargasm. I mean,
yeah, I was going to say that Conrad has such great stuff and so much of it. And I try to do the antithesis of that and just try to keep it a real Shiza Fiesta, man. Just a real audio shit show. I did an episode with RJ City on my grandmother's eyes and her soul. Unless I, looking back, listening later tonight, were to understand what he was saying, or he was to understand what I was saying, neither one of us had any concept what the hell was going on. Like we were just peppering each other with the most random, and some of it's good. Some of it's worthwhile. A lot of it's just dog's dinner. Like a lot of it's like, why did they even like an hour out of this guy's life? Why just to get a few thousand downloads? Like a lot of it's like that, but some of it'll surprise you. There's some of it's inspirational, some of it's redeeming, some of it's poignant, a lot of it's bullshit, a lot of it's filler. But yeah, give it a listen. It's really good, except when it's not. When it's not good, it's the drizzling shits. Except when it's supposed to be, then it's actually okay.
One time we're like, oh, let's, because Mind and Me, we really don't have guests. Or like, oh, let's bring RJ on. And this is in the early stages of Mind and Meanie. We would go like 3 or 4 hours. Yeah. At some point, we invited RJ on. At halfway through the podcast, it felt like we were having a hostage situation. RJ, blink twice. Are we keeping you hostage?
But that was, we're joking about with Conrad, but that's like one of the things I know Meanie and I, and to what Joel's saying, and some of it I'm sure is jest, but Meanie and I, when we started the Mind of the Meanie, it really was like, you look at it and you go, all right, well, no one's doing it better than Conrad Thompson. So let's try and do something different, and doing that was extreme in more of, we'll say, the Conrad type way of the, is because we're on ad-free shows, and it's within that family, so it feels comfortable and it feels like it's the right way to do it. I know with Mind of the Meanie, it was something Meanie wanted to do in the beginning, and I'm so glad that this is how he wanted to do it, because it really literally is, I say, Meanie, what's on your mind? And who the hell knows what we're going to talk about? And it's a blast. And sometimes it's been to the point where I'm in tears laughing. And sometimes we have legitimately had these like incredibly emotional conversations that like neither of us had any anticipation when this show started, or even that episode started, to have that. But real, things become real. And it's, so again, I don't want to keep doing the hard sell on our other stuff, but it's, I'm just very happy to be a part of it. But yeah, definitely check them both out. Dave already subscribed to both. We really appreciate it.
Andrew, did you have anything else before we go to Dave?
Sorry. No, but I appreciate all the time. So
well, blink twice if they got you hostage.
That's awesome. Hey, real quick, Joel, I know I'm a fan of your like Instagram and some of the food pictures that you share of your journeys, and your stock advice and stock tips. Do any of that make the 69, eargasm?
Yeah. So can you see this?
Oh my God. Here we go.
And put your pants up.
That's some soup that I actually had 2 spoons of already, but I'm going to wait until it's going to be my little treat after this is over. After I get through dealing with Shernoff for an hour.
The Brooklyn pizza stuff gets me every time. All right, let's keep it rolling. Dave in the QC, Mr. Subscriber himself, you're up with the guys.
Well, how am I going to follow that up? Joel's sitting there eating some SpaghettiOs and shit. Let's do it. I want some damn. Oh, guys, thanks for doing this again with us. It was fun as shit last time, and I enjoyed it again today.
Well, thank you.
I have 2 quick things that I just kind of want to go over with you. And number one is, I know he wasn't always Taz's manager because he moved on to Sabu and Rob Van Dam. But does anybody else ever get annoyed as shit with that fucking whistle when it comes to Bill Alfonso?
Well, being in an arena with him is a totally different experience. But hey, man, if he annoyed you, he did his job, I guess.
It's almost like you go back and watch the network now and you can't even enjoy an old Taz match or Sabu or Rob Van Dam, because all you can hear is that whistle the whole time. And it like my mind just turns to it and it drives me crazy.
So that brings me back to a great time, you know?
Maybe when I was 14, 15, when it was originally aired, I probably would have liked it better too. But as I'm laying in bed, my wife's sleeping next to me and I'm not trying to wake her up, and I hear the whistle just going and the volume just goes lower and lower and lower. And then I can't hear shit. So I'm just kind of watching ECW on mute. But other than that, my question is it's something that Eric Bischoff doesn't like doing with us because he doesn't like hypotheticals or what ifs.
Oh, okay.
But what if Taz did not make the jump to WWF at the time? How do you think his career at ECW would have unfolded? You know, because he left and then it kind of was, you got Justin Credible as a champion. You got Mike Awesome went before, he went to WCW as a champion. Then it kind of all spiraled out and it ended with Rhino. And we never really had that dominant champion again in ECW like you had with Raven for his little tenure, Shane Douglas with his, and then Taz with his. How do you think things could have been different for ECW?
You want to go take that first, Joel?
I mean, I know too much to answer if it's going to be hypothetical, and that's not always the case. But what I mean to say in this case is Taz was always very serious about the business. He took the business and his job very seriously. He was about his money, and ECW towards the end, the money wasn't always there. And I don't see a world where Taz would have stayed around to the end. Just knowing Taz, I mean, to hypothetically ask what would have happened if he would have not gone to WWF is to ask, everything else has to be hypothetical. ECW has no money issues. ECW leapfrogs WCW officially in every metric and becomes the number 2 wrestling company in the world and gets embroiled in it. I mean, as loyal as he was and as much of an original as he was and as tight as he was with Paul and The Office, I just don't think I see a pathway to him not leaving. So because there's all that, because it hinges on stuff, I don't really have an answer.
Yeah, I guess kind of it would have to be like if the money issues weren't there, if checks weren't bouncing and whatnot, that would kind of have to be the way. But I mean, to me, it just seemed like
for content,
I think it interesting.
It just kind of seems like to me, when Taz left, ECW really fell off. And it would have been like, I can only imagine when ECW finally got on TNN. So they were actually on a legit cable channel that, I wasn't scrambling trying to find them at 11:30 at night or whatever it was on God knows what channel, because I used to do it on Tuesday nights, or it was Tuesday or Thursdays. I don't remember. ECW would come on at 11:30 at night and I'd be just wherever it was, because you never remember, what channel was it on, blah, blah, blah. So, but I was that big of a fan. So, but it just kind of seemed like when Taz left, like Raven left, it wasn't a big deal. You had Terry Funk was there, but you still had Sabu, and then you had Shane Douglas really taking over. Shane Douglas kind of went on out. Taz was there to take the ball and roll with it. And then after Taz was gone, it just seemed like it just was really dying.
Well, I'll take what you're saying though, but I'll take what you're saying and kind of twist the hypothetical a little bit even more. If Taz hadn't left, but ECW still ended up closing up shop in the beginning, I guess what was the beginning of 2001?
It was in April of 2001.
Right. So I think there's a possibility that you would have gotten more of the ECW Taz during the invasion angle. I think there's a possibility had Taz stayed pretty much stable in where he was, I think Taz would have been the top guy in ECW. Talk about Rhino being the last champion. I think you easily could have seen a Taz as the last champion, or at least in contention for it. In which case, when the invasion angle happens in WWF, I think maybe Taz plays a much larger role and possibly as somebody coming in there to butt heads with a Steve Austin or something like that. So I think, that to me, I agree, not knowing Taz the way that Joel or Meanie do, but I agree with what Joel's saying in the sense that, I think Taz would have gone with what, it's business. But I think, let's say Paul Heyman was able to work something out with him, was able to keep him there until the end. I think we could have seen a much bigger presentation of Taz in WWF, at least for the time being.
Yeah, and just it's a matter of also, does Taz not get burnt out? Because he said towards the end of his ECW run, it just became like, what's the thing about Eddie Murphy said about you feed somebody saltines every day, and one day you offer them a Ritz, and you're like, that's a good cracker. In WWE, he was the Ritz cracker. He's just so used to ECW, it just became formulaic. If that's a word. ECW. Okay, here's another pay-per-view. Okay, here's another headliner, and he kind of lost a spark or inspiration, I should say. That's the word I was looking for in ECW. So hopefully, if he hadn't lost that spark and that inspiration towards the end of his run at ECW, and he had stayed, and say TNN was giving ECW some money. In WWE ECW wasn't paying for all the production and all this other rigmarole. We could have had some good dream matches. I don't know if Rhino and Taz touched in ECW because I was in WWE at the time, and I would just watch around. Like if when I was in WWE, I was on the road a lot. But if I was home, and I knew there was a pay-per-view, I'd buy the pay-per-view just to see how my friends were doing. And there was a couple times where I was home from the road and they're running at the arena. I would go to the arena show and just hang out and watch. I was there tonight. Taz dropped the belt back to Dreamer. Even though I was in WWE, I went to the show just to watch and hang out and see my friends. So
that's one of the things that I missed. I grew up in Florida, and obviously ECW traveled to Florida sometimes, but like I never got to go see a live ECW event. And to me, the crowd is what made ECW so damn phenomenal. Yeah. And that's what's sorely lacking in wrestling today, especially with pandemic, but in general, the crowd's just not as into it as it was in ECW. And that's that's what truly made it fun.
Yeah. ECW was one part Slapshot, one part Major League, one part Rocky Horror Picture Show, to where the crowd knew all the chants and all the characters and all this stuff. And it was every goofy sports movie you can imagine, even in the locker room. There's some things that happen in the locker room where like, man, if the fans saw us right now, they'd be really fucking disappointed. Just whether it's Beulah and Louis Piccoli singing Summer Nights, in the locker room in Trenton, or, just goofy shit. But we really were like a band of brothers that, and that's why we're always, people are, we saw be closed. People are like, oh, look at these guys hanging on to their legacy. No, we just want to hang out with our friends. We didn't want ECW to close. We didn't want to work with, of course we wanted to make money, but there was some about that chemistry in that locker room. We all spoke a certain language. It was the wrestling language, but it was different kind of language to the rest of the business at the time. And we all bonded together, even if we, two people in the locker room were butting heads a little bit, it was just because just like any family where two family members butt heads, but then if an outsider comes in, they bond together and turn on the outsider, so, that's why we're still here, man. This is why I'm still friends with Joel. I'm still friends with Francine and everybody else. We still talk to this day,
Well, of course, everybody wants to be Francine's friend. Have you seen her? Good Christ.
Dave, anything else for you, man?
No, that's it. Thank you guys for doing this. We love y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks for subscribing.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. Thanks for the.
I'll give it a listen tomorrow. I promise.
Thanks for padding the stats.
Meanie, when you were talking about the friendship and kind of thinking about Taz, was there one guy or two guys or anybody that was in his inner circle, or that he was more friendly with than everyone else? Did he have like that good buddy?
Taz and Perry were pretty tight. Yeah. Especially I guess because they're running the school together. Right. I mean, they literally had their own like cubicles there, almost like they had their own rooms, offices, and stuff like that. So they were in there every day, training guys and and stuff like that. So I would say Perry and Taz were pretty tight. There was always the joke, the New York clique, the Philly clique,
Okay.
But everybody got along. Everybody was cool. It was definitely as far as Taz having a carpool lane buddy, it would probably be Perry.
Perry Saturn. Yeah, I was thinking about that when you guys were talking about his big send-off and everybody came out on stage and thanked him. And Joel, it was you who said, listen, when they got backstage, it didn't continue on for 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. That was part of just what we did to honor him on the stage. And I just started to wonder, I wonder who his buddy was or his pal was that maybe he hung out with more. So that makes sense, it being Saturn.
Yeah, I think he got along, Saturn and the New York guys. I think, to the best of my knowledge, he got along real well with Bubba and with Devon. He got along real well with Tommy Dreamer. Those guys were all trained by Johnny Rods. And he got along with a lot of people.
Yep.
All right. Good stuff. James Coelho, you're up next. You're on with the guys.
Oh, boy. So, Meanie, I think you're the only one I don't have heat with right now. So I'll ask you the question. The FTW championships that now Taz has brought to AEW, do you think that he should have left it as kind of like a retired championship, or are you happy to see that legacy is living on?
Well, I don't know. I think he tried to do a good thing by bringing it along and, adding credibility to Brian Cage, but it's kind of got lost in the shuffle, I think. And that's not a detriment to Brian or Taz or anybody. It's just some plans sound great on the drawing board, but after you execute it, it's hard to gauge too because there's no fans. Imagine if Taz brought that belt out in front of a crowd, and the crowd went, "Oh!" You really have nothing to measure it against.
There's like 50 people there in Jacksonville.
Yeah, so. If this had been done, if they could have, there's a lot of things I wish they would have held off on until the pandemic was, Kaputski and, we're all vaccinated. We got full houses again. I would have just, if I could use a football analogy, I would have used 2020 as a preseason. Do enough to get by, but then pull out the big guns once, the crowds come back, because I think if he pulled that belt out in front of a full house, there would have been like a holy shit chant or this is awesome chant, or I'm not being facetious with the this is awesome chant like some of the boys are, but
like an organic one, not a piped in one.
Yeah, I think that's my answer. I wish he would have held that, put that ace card in his back pocket for when there's a crowd.
I also think there should have been more of a build up to it. Taz bringing, as we covered a little bit on the show, Taz bringing that or creating that title was kind of his, that was his way of showing his frustration at not having the opportunities that he wanted. Bringing it for Brian Cage just seemed like it didn't really work. And then even though it could have built to something, they could have still built it into something. I think when Team Taz was created, which I love the idea of him having his stable and having Team Taz, but I think when Team Taz was created, well, now it's like, okay, well, these are all my people. Why is Brian Cage the FTW champion? It doesn't make any sense. So I think, I can't say why that, why it went the way it did, but I definitely think that it could have been used differently and better, and we're in such a messed up time as it is that I feel like every decision that's been made in the last year should get somewhat of a free pass. When we get back to the real world of just kind of all right, well, we were all kind of going through some stuff at the time. So, we forgive some of it.
James, what would make you think that you have heat with me? Are you the Topanga guy?
Well, I even see, instead of being a keyboard warrior and hiding behind it, I even put my Twitter thread in here. So,
man, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Massive balls in this guy.
Yeah, really. Up until a couple days ago, it seemed like this guy was Hashtag quintessential top guy. Isn't that you as well?
No. That's El
That's
Karat.
not you.
No, and I think he's on here. There he is.
That's the other
no,
James.
Right.
That's the other
Okay.
James. No.
Oh, so
Stop.
you're not. Oh, so you didn't at least go ahead and buddy up to me and put me over so you could cut me out at the knees and go for the whole Topanga assignment. You're just the Topanga guy. Like, I'm looking for why you're a thorn in my side.
Oh, correct.
It begins and ends with Topanga, right?
And I didn't even have heat with you, to be honest, until you chimed in. The heat was all on Shernoff. You chimed in and
what was the heat on me? All I said was, "Hey, I'll interview Topanga."
Yeah, that's
and
easy
you
to
were
say
like,
for you.
No,
You're the pro.
I'm gonna do it. Well, yeah. Well, everything I have done in my entire career has been with the goal to eventually interview Topanga. All of this.
I'll tell you what. At least you have a microphone and you sound professional, unlike Joel. Down there.
Hey, if I had what Joel had, I wouldn't need a microphone. That man's got that. Look at him.
He has soup in a bowl
over there.
We're all scared to ask what Joel has.
I'm starving, so I'm glad he's got some food. But
fair enough.
Have you heard Joel on a microphone though? If anybody could talk Topanga into doing something crazy, it's Joel.
I would agree. And again, that's why I said I didn't have heat with him first. But guys, I appreciate it.
Oh wow! Yeah. I don't even know where to go from there, Joel.
Yeah, no, we'll see where things go with me and this guy. I'm going to keep this guy at about a half an arm's length,
or I'm going to get blocked or muted. Normal shit.
Listen.
Or the length of a penis, whichever is longer. Which
James
in my case, however, in his case, I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'll keep him at about 7 or 8 inches length, and I'll give him something to measure that with. On a dull day, if I'm not quite feeling up to code.
All right, James Elkarat, you've been named. Do you want to come out, unmute yourself, and do you have anything to say for yourself, pal?
Up the code.
I really don't have too much to say. I mean, it is an honor to be on the Zoom with, 2 great legends, and a great host, obviously. But no, I have really nothing to say. I'm just in the middle of supper right now, but it's good to listen along. Joel, amazing promos. I mean, I feel that about Meanie.
What are you eating?
I'm down with it. And Shernoff, man, keep bringing the heat. Like I like it.
James, they want to know what you're eating.
What
are you eating?
I was eating pizza, and I'm about to go get some more. I got some crust. You try to get some crust, and I'm about to go get another couple slices of pizza.
I don't eat frozen pizza. Listen to this. The other day, I don't eat frozen pizza because I live in Brooklyn. The other day, we were in the supermarket, and we saw that they had, as we had seen on TV, the DiGiorno's croissant crust pizza. So we got it.
Nice.
How was it?
Matt,
I'm not ashamed. It was good.
Matt, are you holding up a steak?
I'm a little bit ashamed, but it was good.
Where's Matt?
We got Matt here holding up are you grilling a steak in the middle of this?
Where'd he go?
I think he left. We outed him.
You called him out, and he jumped off quicker than.
Dude, I saw a fire. I thought he fucking murdered somebody.
No, he just all of a sudden starts showing his steak. Like he's got his tongues and his.
This is and turn it into investigative discovery all of a sudden. I'm not sure what's happening. Michael McClanahan, you're up next. And yes, you have to tell us what you had for dinner. It's your turn.
Okay, well, tonight I had a chicken parmesan sub that was delicious.
Wow.
And hopefully not just delicious, but uneventful. Because we asked the other guy what he had for dinner, and he lit his house on fire.
Mine was very uneventful.
All right, great.
I ate half and saved the other half for lunch tomorrow.
Oh, you show off.
I'm not about that life, but if you can do that, you're a better man than me.
I love it.
So,
Meanie, what did you have for dinner? A pizza. Not a slice.
Oh, pizza.
Yeah, just.
That's fantastic. Sorry, Michael. You're
oh no, you guys are good. So,
Meanie, what did you have for dinner? Yes. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you.
Michael's frozen. He doesn't even know what to do.
You know what?
You're good.
But here, no. But Meanie brings up a good point. To have a hamburger and a slice of pizza is not crazy.
No.
But imagine having a pie of pizza and 1/8 of a hamburger.
Okay.
Sounds delicious.
Okay, while we're talking about food, I'll change my question while we're talking about food, because we've got an ongoing debate here on ad-free shows. If you had to pick between eating a regular hamburger or a cheeseburger, which one do you pick and why?
Oh, a cheeseburger.
There's cheese on it.
Did America become a communist nation all of us, like while we were doing this? Like 701 America went communist? Cheeseburger.
No, we just have a couple hosts that prefer just plain hamburgers and some prefer cheeseburgers, so they're always getting questions about
who are
that.
Who are these hosts?
You know what? Hold on, huh? You know what I say to that? You know what I say to that?
Oh God.
Oh my.
I don't. All right. I don't think Meanie. I don't think that one. I don't think that one picked up. So I'm just going to use this one, if you will, real quickly. That's an old one we have in the of Meanies.
Yeah.
We have in the bank there.
You have a longer one, don't you?
No. Well, sometimes I'll combine them, like. Yeah. I throw them all together. We did one episode of our show. Oh, it was Silent but Deadly Night, right?
Yeah.
It was the Christmas episode.
Yeah.
And I somehow managed to like play Silent Night with your farts that were in the Paul's like this.
What a treasure. That's a treasure.
This is glorious. I don't even know who's up next, and I don't care. Can you fart in the mic again, Meanie? Are you doing it on demand?
Dude, there was one episode I totally had to get up out of the chair and walk out of the room mid podcast.
Oh,
He did.
man.
And Chef Mike wrote down the timestamps for each Spotify and
yeah, and like yeah, he really does. Which is great because we never know what we talked about either.
Yeah.
But he does that for us.
It's comedic genius.
Michael, and we're getting to you, James. I know you can't wait. You're itching on that mute button. I get
I
you.
hope you guys appreciate that because I just put a nicotine stain in my underwear.
Oh my God.
Like
Michael McClanahan, are you done? Are you done?
It's like
Yeah, you guys are good. That was not my original question, but that was fantastic. That might have been the best question I ever asked on ad-free shows.
like the old smokers commercial where the guy's like, you know, and his hanky turns brown.
With that, James Sorensen, yes, you can now unmute yourself, and you are on with the boys. Good luck.
It ain't the first time. Anywho,
that's what he said. I'll be here all month. On the first Monday or Tuesday of the month. Try the meal.
James is still fucking eating. I like how he popped in to just and then pop right back out.
James, do we have a question, or are we just going to stare awkwardly at the guys? Go ahead.
I did have a question.
Okay.
For do you think Sabu was Taz's greatest opponent in ECW?
Oh yeah.
Or if not, who would you put up there if not Sabu?
For me, it was definitely Sabu and ECW because they're so both ends of the spectrum where Taz was serious. I mean, they were both super serious. So maybe that's why they even had, their feud was a lot more believable because they really had that tension. But, you had the flyer, you had the guy with the ground game, the guy who was unconventional, used chairs, and Taz, I don't need no weapons. My hands are my weapons, So they were both two different ends of the spectrum, but it's like the chocolate and the peanut butter. Once you put them together, it all worked out, and the cool thing about them is their feud lasted over Taz's career from the Tasmaniac over to Taz, stuff like that. So yeah, I think that was, to me, that was Sabu's, best opponent in ECW.
Easy. I think so too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If it wasn't Sabu, I would say Candido, but Candido made everybody look good.
And also Alfonso, manager of champions. What did you think of that tagline?
It was true. I loved it. He was Taz's Don King. A little bit over the top, he didn't have the hair or anything, but he had the whistle.
Down the middle, daddy.
Yeah, right down the middle, daddy. Who could stop the path of rage? Who could stop the path of rage? And you just annoy the shit out of you to where you want to. You knew Taz could kick anybody's ass, but Bill Alfonso made you want to see Taz get his ass kicked too. So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our top fan.
Well,
Yeah,
listen,
hey.
James Sorensen, he's a big fan of you guys. I know that for sure. And
Yeah, we really appreciate him. He's going to be doing a guest. He's on our Patreon, and he's going to be doing a guest spot on one of our
Very cool.
episodes
Well
later
deserved.
in the month. We're excited for it.
Very cool. Well, guys, listen, we started with Taz. We talked music. We talked a little food. We talked a little farts, and we talked a little bit more about Taz tonight. I can't say, I just want to say this has been tremendous. If this is what the Mind of the Meanie's like, then God, I'm in. And I think you got 20 other guys from this show that are in too. And so we appreciate, we thank you, all the stuff that you're doing. Now, officially, before we wrap up, let's go around the room and go ahead and give us those cheap plugs. Josh, you can take your jacket off, throw it to the signs behind you, show us your socks, whatever you got to do, man.
All right. So alternative commentary is actually going to be live on Fight, where Meanie and I are going to be doing basically a watch along live for AEW Revolution. That's going to be for free on Fight this Sunday. We will actually be debuting the Mind of the Meanie on Fight TV as well, starting the 8th, right? Monday the 8th. So I guess the day after alternative commentary. So we will be, it's going to be the audio version just in video. So you'll still be able to Monday morning download the Mind of the Meanie, but then you'll be able to watch it as well. So you can see things like Meanie get up out of his chair and fart into the microphone instead of just having me describe what just happened. But yeah, go ahead and follow us on social media if you would there at Mind of the Meanie. You can follow me at So Says Shernoff. I have So Says Shernoff on Fight. If you haven't picked it up yet, I have a really great relationship with Fight. I'm very lucky to be a correspondent for them and do like 16 shows with them. I'm trying so hard to be the Conrad Thompson of Fight, but I grew the beard. He said that was working for me. So, but yeah, so go check out So Says Shernoff. We just had a new episode of that on Fight. It's a satirical wrestling news show. So if you think that I'm even remotely funny, check it out. If you don't think I'm funny, then at least that one's based off of a script. So had some time to work on it. And that's it.
All right.
That's it for me.
That's it for you.
ProWrestlingTees.com/Mind of the Meanie /So Says Shernoff /Blue Meanie. Meanie, you can put your stuff over.
Yeah, Meanie, you're up next. Do you have anything left after all that?
I just realized while our people are eating pizza, I have a Pizza the Hut shirt on. So
nice.
Yeah, if you want to support the Blue Meanie, go over to ProWrestlingTees.com/Blue Meanie, where you get the old school BWO shirt. Speaking of ECW, I have a couple different versions of the BWO shirt. I also have the BWO barbed wire shirt that I made for like one spot show. We never did it, but I still had the artwork. So I said, hey, let me put it up there. So I also have great artwork from Hal Haney, who does a lot of the great artwork for a lot of the wrestlers and stuff like that. If you want to, get a cameo, I'm on cameo.com/Blue Meanie BWO. And I think Josh pretty much nailed all the stuff with the podcast, which, Mind of the Meanie drops every Monday at 6 a.m. And it will be on Fight TV every Monday at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Yes. And the debut on Fight, this coming episode is our 50th episode. So,
and our 50th episode, we're going to have Andrew from Wildcat Championship Belts.
Yes.
He makes all the belts for, WWE and everyone else. So
very cool.
We don't really do guests, but when we have special occasions, we'll our 50th episode, we'll bring on somebody special. And me and Andrew have been friends for over 25 years. So it'll be fun to have them on. But go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Blue Meanie.
Yeah, Andrew's not far. He's out in Latrobe, so just a few hours down the turnpike there. So, hey, that's awesome. And last but not least, by the way, the guy that started his house on fire made it back in, Matt. So
yeah, his phone died.
Yes,
my phone died. I'm a newbie.
Oh, by the way, I just want to say about Paul a couple of things. Number one, Paul's been on So Says Shernoff when we filmed it in StarCast. I was like, hey man, we need somebody to kind of be a security, like stop me from stealing Dave Milliken's belts.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea that you were even like associated with StarCast, or like, I'm just like, hey, this looks like a big dude over here. I'll ask him. But also I just want to say before we go to Joel, and I want him to put his stuff over, but you have been killing it, man. And I'm so happy for you. It's awesome having you host this, but when you sat in for Conrad, I know I'm not the first one to tell you that you did an awesome job, but just congratulations on that and everything you've been doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. All right, before I get choked up, I'm getting a little verklempt. Let's turn it over to Joel Gertner. What can we do for you, man? Thank you, Josh.
The 69-minute eargasm is absolutely a pimple on the ass of audio. Give it a listen now. My YouTube channel is at Joel Gertner. If you like to see me cook, do baseball card auctions, do scratch offs, ramble like a lunatic, unbox wrestling merchandise, go to the YouTube channel. How many people do we have watching right now?
You have minus the 4 of us, 13.
13. Okay.
Oh, perfect for Taz.
I'll be perfect for Taz. I'll be fair then. If there are 10 tweets in the next, let's say between now and midnight Eastern, if there are 10 different tweets to Conrad Thompson that say, where is hashtag Extreme Championship Wednesday, I will do what I need to take one of the 2 pilots that are in the can that have already been recorded, and I will have it up in April. Find me on Twitter at StudMuffinSays. Find me on Instagram at Quintessential StudMuffin, ProWrestlingTees.com/Joel Gertner, Cameo.com/Joel Gertner if you want a video message, scripted or unscripted, all personally tailored. And that's me, man.
I believe Bama Adam,
yes,
is actually has just done that, and Dave, I believe,
Conrad Thompson
just sent that as well.
Oh, Joel. Wow, you got the army behind you now, Joel.
Thank you.
No?
Yeah, let's honestly, like, at least 10. Like, let's just pepper them. Like, let's just bombard them. And yeah, let's get that going. And
Adam
I'd be
did it too.
absolutely happy because we have 2 great episodes that nobody has heard yet, and I'd love for at least one of them by April to get out there.
If you read between the lines, what Joel is doing here on the That Was Extreme post show is begging you guys to get Conrad to take him away from me and Meanie and do so he can do a show with Conrad.
I prefer going into business for myself and imploring.
Hey, listen real quick, Joel, and I want to make sure, are you good? Is there anything else you wanted to share before I move on?
I would remind people to reach out, I think, to hey, it's Conrad, and let him know, hey, it's it's Conrad. Well,
man.
where is Extreme Championship Wednesday? Make sure you hashtag it too. And then we'll go back into the archives 10 years from now and we'll be like, hey, look at the first hashtag Extreme Championship Wednesday of this wildly successful program that is highly monetizing and worthwhile to do. Unlike the eargasm, which is just a blight on my life. And
hey, well, everyone's tweeting these things out.
Oh my God.
If someone tweets out about Mind of the Meanie,
here we go.
Listen to Mind of the Meanie, subscribe to Mind of the Meanie. We will like your tweet and retweet it.
Hey, not only that, but we have guys in the chat asking for guys in the chat are asking for a Spaceballs watch along with Meanie. They want or alternative commentary for Spaceballs. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/Mind of the Meanie can get you in there.
Oh, you're such a shill.
We can make anything.
Salesmen. We're such big.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. Well, listen, this was fantastic. I like this because everybody's just having fun and chiming in, and this is a good time. Appreciate you guys so much, really taking your time to do this with all of us. Listen, Make sure you follow these guys on social, support them, tweet at Hey It's Conrad. Tell them Joel Gertner sent you. Check out their shows. You can expect more That Was Extreme at the beginning of each and every month. And make sure, if you haven't already, you give episode 3 a listen. This is Paul Bromwell closing it down. Thank you all for your support. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.